So, I have good news for you guys today. There's so much happening in this service after I'm done talking that I can only talk for like 40 or 50 minutes today. I'm cutting it down. No, yeah, I bet you appreciate that. So, the story we heard from the gospel today, pretty important story really. You can kind of imagine how it went down. Jesus has gone to a synagogue in a little village or town to teach on the Sabbath day, which was the last day of the week in the Jewish calendar, right? This would be like their Sunday, but for them it's for Saturday. You're a Jewish guy, right? You should know about this. So on the Sabbath day, you weren't supposed to do any work. You're supposed to make it a religious day, one where you go to eat together, say your prayers together, and listen to teaching from the scriptures together. But you shouldn't do your ordinary work. And then, over the years, what got defined and called work got bigger and bigger. So that you almost couldn't do a whole lot of ordinary things on the Sabbath day. And Jesus goes to the synagogue on the Sabbath, and there's a woman there who needs healing because apparently she's bent over, like her back is not functioning right. She's kind of bent over like this. And Jesus says, come over here. It looks like you've been sick for a long time. Yeah, 18 years, a long time. He says, well, I heal your back. And she straightens up. And she's praising God in the synagogue. And then the person who runs the synagogue said, what are you doing? That's work. You're not allowed to work on the Sabbath. And then Jesus gives them a really snarky analogy. He says, you know what? You would untie your donkey, wouldn't you, on the Sabbath to give it water? Well, I just untied her from being under bondage to her illness and to Satan. I think I can do that. If you could untie your donkey, I can untie this lady's ailment. And everybody says, oh, you're right. It's kind of a little bit of an illustration of how a good idea can go bad. There's a great idea, a great part of the Jewish tradition was to have a special day just to dedicate to God. And it turned out after a while that it was like good religion gone bad. And what was a good idea, when it became so absolute, so rigid, that what they defined as work was so crazily detailed, they said, that is just crazy. Jesus said, the Sabbath is a good idea, but the way you guys have interpreted it is just terrible. So, there are a lot of examples, and I have to admit, I'm a religious insider. In other words, in political terms, I'm a Washington insider. I work for the institution. I work in the capital city. I'm the inside guy. I'm the establishment. So me, of all people, I get a front row seat at when religion goes bad. And it almost always goes bad when it gets to be absolute. And it becomes rigid. It becomes brittle. So for instance, in our tradition, we have sacred and holy and special places. Like a church is a special place. Like other traditions have sacred synagogues or sacred mosques. We have sacred churches. Within the church, we have even more special places up in the front towards the altar. And it's like a sacred place. So we want to treat it with respect. But I have to admit, sometimes when the altar guild comes to fix the altar, their little kids run all over the altar. And I'll tell you a secret too. When you guys aren't here and I'm all by myself, sometimes my dog comes in here and runs around the altar. Well, now you all know. I'll accept my resignation in the morning. But the idea is that a sacred place should be treated with respect. And so we do. But children need to be respected too. What's more important, kids or altar? Kids. The dog's a little iffy. This happens. This gets played out in a big way. In the Middle East, Jerusalem is the sacred city. 3 world religions think that's the most sacred place on the planet, or pretty close. Jewish people got the temple. Christians, because we're connected to Jews, think that's a sacred place. Muslims, this is where Muhammad ascended from. This is their sacred place. And yet people will fight over the sacred place to the point that they will kill people over the sacred place. What's more important, people or places? People. What's more important, the woman getting healed or obeying the Sabbath? The woman getting healed. When religion gets to be absolute, it goes bad. There are sacred doctrines too. Beliefs are important to us. When we serve the bread and the wine at communion, there's all kinds of doctrine about just how special that bread and wine is after we prayed for it to be blessed. It's one of the doctrines. They said that becomes a holy thing. So when I give your children the piece of bread, which looks like a little styrofoam wafer, and I give them the bread, and they drop it on the floor, or they stick it in their pocket, I know it's sacred. If it falls on the floor, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to eat it. And when you find it in their pocket at home, you tell them they need to eat that at the altar. But then you eat it before you need to eat this. So it's a sacred thing. But people are more sacred than things. Sacred doctrine. People are more sacred than doctrine. Sacred places. People are more sacred than places. Whenever we make something absolute, it turns bad. Religion is a great thing. Whenever religion gets absolute, it goes bad. So, I know we only have a short time together today because lots of other things going on. I'll give you just one more example. The Bible is the sacred book. But there are things in the Bible that the church has used as an absolute, which has made religion look really odd. The Bible was used to legitimize slavery. Good thing gone bad. The Bible was used to keep women as second-class citizens. A good book used for a bad way. You could go on and on about how good the Bible is, but when it's made an absolute truth and just raised to the level of divinity, and you have a good book gone bad. So Bible, sacred places, sacred doctrines, sacred religion, taken to absolute level, almost always goes bad. So I want you to celebrate your religion, practice your faith, honor your sacred doctrines, give special preference to sacred places, believe, but don't raise it to absolute levels. People are always more sacred than things and places and books and doctrines. So when Jesus said, "Are you guys crazy? I know it's the Sabbath, but I wanted to heal her." Her healing was much more important than the Sabbath rules. Celebrate your religion. Just don't make it absolute. Absolute religion, you might say, corrupts and goes bad. Absolutely. I offer this to you in God's name. God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So the next part of